Hey, as I mentioned earlier, my name is Jason Squires, and I'm so excited about tonight. I'm just excited. I get real excited, that's all. You're gonna hear a lot of things about that tonight. So, hey, I'm gonna tell you a story. I was a student here a long time ago, and when I was in class one day, our professor said, hey, I want you to write a paper, and the prompt for the paper is, who is God? Excuse me? Like, what? And she said, I want you to not only write a paper, but I want you to interview somebody and ask them the question, who is God? Who is God to you? So I figure out who I'm gonna interview, I sit down with her and I said, all right, I have a question for you. My question is, who is God to you? And she looked straight at me and she said, God is God. That's cheating. Right? You can't say that. A tomato is a tomato, right? You just can't say, God is God. And she said, no, let's hear me out. She said, God is God. Nobody else can equate to him. So the only way to describe him is to say, God is God. It was the shortest paper I ever wrote. But one of my favorite books of all time is a book called I Am Not, But I Know I Am, by a guy named Louis Giglio. And Louis Giglio says in his book, the best thing about God is that he knows he is God, and if you don't know you're God, you're not God. I'll say it again, that sentence had a lot of turns to it, okay? The best thing about God is that he knows he is God, and if you don't know you're God, you're not God. Let that settle in for a second. The stress in the room should be lifting right about now when you realize we worship a God who knows he is God. And the best thing about him is that he knows he is, and I'm not. So absolutely. In Genesis chapter 1, first chapter of the Bible, chapter 1, verse 3 through 5 says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw the light was good. He separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. I'm standing in a chapel at a private Christian college. You've all heard that before, right? How many of you have stopped and realized, and God said, let there be light? We talk about creation. God created. We think creation, we go to the shop, we build it, we have to make it from scratch. God said, let there be light. It just showed up. Anyone? Right? As it continues, verse 6, and God said. Verse 9, and God said. Verse 14, and God said. Verse 20, and God said. Verse 24, and God said. God said it, and it just showed up. If I said, let there be a horse, and it showed up on stage, first of all, run, because that's terrifying, right? Can you imagine? Can you imagine going, and God said, let there be a horse, and it just showed up? Jason, that doesn't work, right? You would all, first of all, I don't know if you'd run, or if you'd go, this guy knows what he's talking about, right? How crazy would that be? God said it, and it just showed up. The God that we worship spoke things into existence. Let that settle in. Spoke it into existence. He said it, and it just showed up. So I like to understand things from numbers and how big God is. So we're going to have a little bit of a science lesson, okay? They handed me this and said, you can't fail by the button, so I'm going to try it. So how big is this universe, okay? A light year is 5.88 trillion miles. That means in 1 year's time, light travels 5.88 trillion miles. That is 186,000 miles per second. Or, in our galaxy, the galaxy we live in is 100,000 light years from one side to the other. 100,000 light years from one side to the other. I don't think you're picking it up yet. Okay, let's go farther, okay? That is, 100,000 light years is 5.88 with 17 zeros. And that 17 zeros is a number that you'll never see. It's quintillion. 5.88 quintillion miles if you were to get on one side of our galaxy and go to the other side. 5.88 quintillion miles. The warmth, our sun is 93 million miles away from us. Right? You're like, these numbers are made up. No, look it up. 93 million miles, our sun is from us. Okay? When we feel the warmth from the sun, it left the sun 8 minutes ago. It takes 8 minutes for that to travel from the sun and for us to feel it. If you were to snap your fingers, light circles the earth 7 times. Right? 7 times. Light can go around the earth 7 times. It would take 17 years to fly in the world's fastest jet if we left Earth and we were able to, I don't recommend it, landing on the surface of the sun. 17 years nonstop to fly from here to the surface of the sun. God spoke it into existence and it just showed up. Still not getting it? We still getting this? Right? So if the earth was a golf ball, okay, you live here. Look at this. Try and find yourself. Right? You live on the earth. If the earth was a golf ball, our sun would be 15 feet in diameter. And just because I'm visual, I brought a tape measure, okay? I'm not even really that visual. I'm an auditory learner. My wife just realized I said that. I'm an auditory learner, okay? 15 feet in diameter. Look at that. Doesn't even hold up. 15 feet in diameter, okay? That's how big, that right there is how big to the end of the stage, 15 feet in diameter. That's how big the sun is. You could put 960,000 Earths inside the sun. 960,000 golf balls fitting inside of the sun. The God that we worship and the God that we serve spoke that into existence. He just said it and it showed up. Okay, there's more than 300 billion stars in our galaxy. 300 billion. Billion. We're going to talk about a few of them tonight. So this one has a fancier name, but I'm going to call it Betelgeuse. It's 427 light years from here. That's 427 times 5.88 trillion miles. Somebody type that on their calculator, and the calculator will smoke a little bit, right? 5.88 trillion miles times 427. That's how far away this Betelgeuse is from us. Betelgeuse is 2 times the size of the Earth's orbit around the sun. 2 times the size of the 15-foot in diameter orbit around this. That's how big the one star is that, by the way, it's hard to see at night, right? It's a pin in the sky. If the Earth was a golf ball, Betelgeuse would be the height of 6 Empire State Buildings. The Empire State Building is 1,454 feet tall, times 8, I had to write it down, is 8,724 feet. 6 of them on top of each other. That's how tall, if you were to put the golf ball at the base of the Empire State Building and stack 5 more on top of it, that's how big this star is. There are 262 trillion Earths can fit inside of that star. 262 trillion. And I'm going to tell you, we haven't even gone big yet. God spoke it into existence. He just said it and it showed up. How crazy is that? You guys are never going to look at a golf ball the same. If the Earth was a golf ball, Musifi would be the width of 2 Golden Gate bridges end to end. Take one Golden Gate bridge, take another Golden Gate bridge, put a golf ball at the end of it, and go stand and see if you can not only see the golf ball, which you couldn't see, and remember, you live on this. Right about now, you're like, Jason, I feel real small right about now. It's good. It's good. You're going to feel smaller in just a second. So you can put 2.7 quadrillion, now we're talking, quadrillion Earths inside of this star. Quadrillion. And let's break quadrillion down, because that's where we're going to go next. Okay? 2.7 quadrillion. 1 million seconds ago was about 12 days ago. Okay? You guys can kind of wrap your head around that. 12 days ago, it's about 1 million seconds ago. 1 billion seconds ago was 32 years ago. 1 trillion seconds ago was 29,700 BC. We're not even to quadrillion yet. Quadrillion seconds ago, give or take 30 million years. 2.7 quadrillion Earth fit inside that star. God spoke it into existence. He said it and it just showed up. Let's get real big. And I think for a big star, you should be called Canis Majoris. Canis Majoris would be the height of Mount Everest, 29,032 feet. Take a golf ball, put it at the base of the mountain, hike up the mountain. I'm not going to do that. Hike up the mountain, 29,032 feet, get to the top, and look for the golf ball. You're not going to find it. You know why? It's too far, and you live on this. You live on this golf ball. 7 quadrillion Earths would fit inside Canis Majoris. Quadrillion. Remember, 30 million years ago? 7. That's a lot of years ago. That's enough golf balls to cover the state of Texas 22 inches deep. 22 inches deep in golf balls, the state of Texas can fit inside Canis Majoris. It is one star out of 300 billion. And by the way, I'm only talking about the stars right now, that God spoke into existence. The God that we worship and the God that we serve just said it and it showed up. Does that catch on? You guys picking that up? The God that we worship, the God that we serve, the God that we sing to, the reason we come to chapel, the reason we come to nights of worship, the reason we go to church, the reason we do any of this is because we worship a God who spoke it and it just showed up. The most powerful God ever. It would take 96 years to read one person's DNA description of 3 billion characters at the rate of 1 character per second. 75 trillion cells make up one human body, which all came from 2 single cells. For instance, sight begins when 1 million optic cells from the nerve meets 1 million optic cells from the eye. God just spoke it and it showed up. Crazy, right? One of my favorite passages in the Bible, and yes, I still use a paper Bible. Is that okay? And then, woo, got one woo. Yeah. Psalm 95, verses 6 and 7 says, "Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the flock under his care." You read that again. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. Wait, the Lord is our Maker. He spoke the earth into existence. He made us. He is the most powerful God ever. And he says, come and worship. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God. We get to worship God. We get to worship God. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the flock under his care. God is our maker. I don't know that there's anything greater than that. The God who spoke 5.88 trillion miles times 100,000 miles galaxy into existence, 5.88 quintillion miles, He spoke it into existence. I live on the golf ball, and he says, Jason, I want to know you personally. I'm not even a speck. I don't even live in a divot on the golf ball. In a brief moment in time, I am one person, and God says, I want you. You want to know what blew my mind? If that didn't blow your mind, the maker of the universe, the God who spoke that into existence, desires to know me personally. He already knows everything about me, but he desires to know me on a personal level. That, to me, is mind-boggling. I can't know everybody, right? I can't know everybody there is to know. But God says, I want to know you personally. When you shift your perspective, you begin to feel real small. When you shift your perspective to realize you live on a golf ball, you begin to feel real small. I am a worship leader. I full-time lead worship at churches, travel. I always have my guitar with me. This golf ball rides in my guitar case. You know why? Because when I open up my guitar case every Sunday morning, I want to be reminded before I walk on stage that I'm going to worship a God who spoke this earth into existence, and I live on the golf ball. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Your problems begin to drift away when you realize there's a God who desires to know you so personally that he spoke the earth into existence. And for me to go, God, I'll handle this. Really? And I want you to know that when I'm up here on stage talking about this, I have not mastered this. People who come up here and talk about stuff, I have not mastered this. I am not a master at giving God everything. It is a daily struggle to get up in the morning and go, God, I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to do it. Because you desire to know me personally, and you spoke the earth into existence, and I can't do that. Try and tell my kids to clean their room. That doesn't work. And God's like, let there be a star. It just showed up. Let there be trees. Let there be a giraffe. Who thought of a giraffe? Right? You ever go to the zoo and you're like, oh, like zebras and monkeys and giraffe? The giraffe's like, why do I have an 8-foot neck? Like, what did that do? Like, what did I do wrong, you know? But God desires to know you personally because he spoke the earth into existence. You could be having the worst day. I challenge you to remember the golf ball. All my life, you've been faithful. All my life, you've been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Let me say that again. All my life, you've been faithful, God. All my life, you've been so, so good. With every single breath of my day that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. You know, you ever come to church and maybe ask yourself, why do people raise their hands? Why do hands get raised in church? Why is that a thing for some people? In freedom, in direct surrender. Okay? If somebody came up to you and like you feel helpless and unable to do anything when you're not protecting yourself. When your arms are out and your arms are wide, you say, God, all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you've been so good. With every single breath that I am able, I'm going to sing of the goodness of God. I can't sing of the goodness of God when I'm closed. I open up to say, God, tonight, everything you do, every single thing, I want to challenge you guys this week as you're driving around, as you're walking around campus, as you are walking out to do something in your car in traffic, and you start spiraling downward, where you sit and think, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I have this thing due, and I've got these bills coming up due, this life is hitting me hard. I want you to look up and see the sky. I want you to look up and see the birds. I want you to look out and see the trees. I want you to look out, and if you're around a river or a lake, if you're anywhere, and look out and go, God spoke that into existence. He's got me. No matter all my life, God, you've been faithful. Faithful does not mean it goes your way. Faithful does not mean your prayer is answered the way you want it to be answered. Faithful is God continuing your story. I don't know who needs to hear this tonight, but God's got you. God's got you. The God of the universe who spoke the earth into existence, he's got you. And tonight, as we continue to worship, I want you guys to worship like you've never worshiped before. As you stand here in Rockland, California, under the stars, under the galaxy, in this city, in this state, at Jessup University, there is no better time to declare that we worship a powerful, big, gigantic God. Amen.